this thing on? G'day guys, welcome to the next episode of Two Red Chairs. I'm Frank from G'day Design Life. Today I am joined by Ryan Hayward from Pitchproof. He's a Melbourne, Aussie designer extraordinaire, some might say as well, because he's garnered a huge audience on his Instagram page, Pitchproof, as well as his own page too, which is amazing. But he's recently done an amazing digital conference, which we'll get into very soon. So first, I'm going to introduce Ryan. How you doing, mate?
Good. Thank you so much for having me on the show. I'm super looking forward to dropping some value to your community.
Let's go. Okay, I think we should probably first debrief on your front row. Now, front row was your digital conference. You had 13 designers or those kinds of people in the design community on this. Was it YouTube stream? That's what you did?
Yep. So basically, we had around 13 design influencers. So people like Chris Do, Michael Janda, Melinda Livesley, just a bunch of awesome people. And that idea of the conference basically extended. And I've even got the original audio of me speaking to my Instagram live going, hey, what would be super cool is just to get all these influencers and put them in the same room and do this big live stream. And then from there, kind of branded onto a digital conference. That was kind of just the starting point. And then about 3 months later, on October 4th, we made it happen. We had about 3,500 people join the actual live stream, which was awesome. But obviously, because of time zones and whatnot, being here in Australia and most people being overseas and in Australia, as you know, it's really crappy for time zones.
Oh, yeah.
We did it about 10 p.m. to about 3 a.m. in the morning. So, I was kind of struggling by the end, but
I was asleep at that time. I caught the first half of it with the first three people you had, and then I was like, no, I'm bowing out. I can't keep my eyes awake for the rest of this.
Well, actually, Shane, the bloke you had on the first episode of this podcast, he stayed up for the entire thing, and he sent me a photo of him playing in bed at 3 a.m. I'm like, dude,
he's a trooper.
Insane.
Yeah. He's one of those designers that does stay up to 3 a.m. still. I remember doing that when I was at uni, and I was just trying to do this to stay awake, and you're just oh my god. But that's awesome, dude. So if we go back to it, let's say out of 10, what was your stress level of doing something like that? It seemed like there was so many different moving parts globally and locally from where you were set up. So talk us through maybe how it all came together technically, and then how you were just absolutely coping with that pressure, or just to get it done and nailed.
Yeah, well, I guess there was a lot of things, especially because at Pitchproof, we're a very small team. So mostly it's just me. We've got a CTO who basically just does all the software side of things. But we did bring on a couple of people for this project. But a lot of the groundwork was actually done by me, scheduling all the times and figuring it all out. Luckily, a good friend of mine who helped with all the live streaming and that back end stuff. Without him, we would have been screwed because there was a lot of problem solving that had to be done. Even on the day, I was kind of panicking a little bit a few hours before because everything was going wrong for us. The weather was really crappy, and we had to get all this gear from a car in a car park a couple of kilometers away into a nice office in Melbourne, Australia. So a lot of things went wrong on the day, but it all seemed to kind of pull together in the end, which was super nice. Yeah. And just the end product was super smooth and something that I was super happy with.
Yeah, I mean, it looked so slick. I was very impressed with what you had as your setup, and I was like, is Ryan going to do it out of his home sort of office thing, or is this going to be something else? I'm just thinking, geez, man, you better have the best internet connection possible to handle this.
Yeah.
But in terms of that sort of technical side, was it always a case that you were going to have to get someone else to do this in the way that you had it in your head? Or, was it just, a cause and effect of someone going, hey, we could probably actually help you with this?
Yeah. So when I first thought of the idea and when I said, okay, let's make this actually happen, I didn't just want to use a webinar software. I've seen people do that in the past. I did a webinar earlier in the year and using a different webinar software. I just didn't like the overall experience. It's a little bit, I don't know, just the interface and everything. It just wasn't the greatest. So I wanted to make it clean and just like this high production type of thing for the community. So basically from that point forward, I did a lot of research. And then obviously a mate of mine who knows a lot about streaming and things of that nature and broadcasting. I'm like, Dean, hey, do you want to help me with this project? And luckily, yes. So we worked together fairly closely. And yeah, there was a lot of problem solving things that we had to go through, especially with like Zoom, the video conferencing app, figuring out a lot of things there, and actually making it like, we had like multiple cameras set up for me. There was a separate camera for the Zoom call that could see me, and a separate camera for the stream, and different audios. And it was insane, the setup we had.
It's nuts,
and the problem solving. But yeah, I'm lucky we had the time that we did. If I wanted to pull it off in a month, I couldn't do it. So
yeah, and that's probably a big thing of, preparation prevents piss poor performance. Like, you got to have all your ducks in a row to get something like this done. Otherwise, everyone's going to go, well, this sucked. Like
everything kind of like got scheduled down to like 5-minute blocks, and like, it was just very detail oriented.
And then in terms of your outreach to these 13 amazing people, like how does that work in terms of is it just a case of going, hey, would you want to come on this? I'm thinking of doing this.
Yeah, basically, like even like people like Christo. So how I got into Chris, I hustled to get him. So I connected with him on LinkedIn, sent him a message there. I even emailed him, DM'd him on Instagram just to make sure I could actually like try my best to actually get to him. He replied via email and went, yes, I'm in. Let's do it. And I think we were fortunate enough because at the time Chris was already following us on Instagram, so he kind of already knew about us. And I think that's the same with all the other influencers. We already had that connection made. For a lot of people like Connor Fowler and Bless on Varghese, we've been working with them from the start of Pitchproof. So that connection was already made. And then there's obviously people like Michael Jenner and Brandon Gross, who we reached out to, and they already knew about us and we already knew about them. Because of the Instagram community that we've built. Yeah.
And I think that's probably the big part for you, is that you've built this like overnight, like, and this is the amazing thing that I've seen you go through in the space of 8 or 9 months now. So I think it was like back in March, you started going real gung ho with posting stuff consistently and daily and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, I've just seen like the meteoric rise. Conversely, at the same time, I was doing the exact same thing. So I was like at a sort of level playing field. And then you just went whoosh, car. And I was like, whoa. And I think that's a huge part to do with the community that is designers on Instagram, which is like, if you're a designer and you're not on Instagram, like you're living under a rock kind of thing, to open yourself out to this design community. And I think that's probably like the pitfall of what I chose in terms of my content, was making it for businesses instead of designers, just to have the crazy following. But for you, I think it hinges on obviously Pitchproof, so your software that is catered towards a designer. So I think that where I'm going with this is that if you're a designer and you are thinking, okay, do I just have to work with clients for the rest of my life as a designer? I think you're a case in point to say, no, you don't have to. You could go out there and make a product or make some sort of service for your own fellow designers. And, obviously it's paying off big time for you. But can you sort of explain how you thought that this might be a better way to go, rather than doing the whole typical client-oriented approach that many would do?
Yep, I think it's tough. Honestly, how we started Pitchproof was simply because I had a problem and I wanted to solve a solution. So it kind of just grew naturally, I guess, into what it is. And look, we didn't expect to grow a community or anything like that. But I guess I like working with people. And I really enjoy working with lots of people at once and building that community. And like, I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I would when I first started the Use Pitchproof Instagram account. We got like 100 followers in a few days. I'm like, yo, that's really cool. But I didn't expect it to grow into what it is now. And I didn't expect to put as much time as I have into it, and just, yeah, love building a community in that process. So I think, to answer your question, I I still like working with clients. I still think that's a fun thing to do for me. And I do still do a little bit of freelance on the side, but I feel like it's something that everyone does, and I don't like to do the norm. I like to do something different, and I like to spread my creativity as much as possible. And when you work with clients, there's obviously limitations. You have to deal with briefs, and you can't just create things that you want to always just create. And I'm fortunate enough with Pitchproof that the things I want to create for the design community, other designers want. So yeah, they go hand in hand very well. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. I mean, I'm of a very similar opinion. To diversify your creativity is something that you just have the opportunity to do. It's whether or not you have the time and the interest to do it. That's the the caveat to it. But I think it's such a great example of how you can not be pigeonholed, or not think that you're pigeonholed into just doing design work for clients. Like you could be giving back to your fellow community the same way that you do with what I call edutainment. I'm not sure the way that you would describe it, but to see what you've learned and then give back in that way, I think is momentous in terms of how you can either grow your standing or just for your own like internal happiness to see other people take away something that has helped you beneficially. And so I guess without me monologuing even more, what was the kind of tipping point that you realized where this was something a bit bigger than what you thought it was going to be, like in terms of that Instagram following? Like, was it when you got to like 2,000 followers, you're like, okay, people are paying attention to this. This is, interesting now.
I think it was at the stage when someone contacted me for a sponsorship where I went, hey, this can be something bigger than just something I want to do for fun on the side.
Yep.
When I think it was around, could have been May, June type of thing, when we got contacted by someone and went, hey, we really like your stuff. Would you be interested in partnering with us to do a sponsorship opportunity? And like, I said yes, obviously, because I like their brand and everything like that. But it was kind of at that stage where I'm like, we probably had around 40,000 followers at the time. It was kind of like, okay, there's some serious traction going on here that brands want to start partnering with us. And at that stage, that's kind of like the tipping point where you go, okay, you can actually make money from this.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I mean, I think that's the thing, that when opportunities present themselves, it's how you handle them. I just wonder though, is it something that you think that people go into it maybe for the wrong reasons? Like I think that's a big thing with Instagram, let's say, where the vanity metrics, let's say, of likes and comments or shares or even the follower count is something that's dictating someone's interest in doing edutainment or putting their stuff out there. Like I can see that you're of a completely different vein, because you're all into the whole Gary Vee style giving value, which I think we're both of the same opinion. And we I think we're two big nerd burgers with Gary Vee content. But what's your take on people that just sort of aren't quite getting it? Like there was a tipping point for me, let's say, where I was just like, okay, I'm not making this for me, it's for somebody else. But in the same respect, like if I'm not enjoying this, then I'm just doing it for the followers, and it just becomes a job, and you're just like, stuff this.
Yeah, for sure. So I think social media is very transparent, and it's very obvious if you're just doing it for the likes and followers. And, I get DMs every single day going, hey, Ryan, how do I increase my followers? How do I get more likes? And my big worry with all this edutainment going around on Instagram and the carousel posts is that people are just doing it because they perform really, really well. And that's why I'm like cross-sided about it, because on the one thing, like these type of posts, people are trying to jam as much value as they can because that's what performs well. But on the flip side of that, I feel there are a lot of people who are just doing it because they want the followers and the likes. But I say this all the time, if you want followers or likes, you're not going to get followers or likes. Like,
it doesn't work that way, does it?
It's 100%, and people don't wrap their head around it, and it confuses the hell out of me. Why? But I just think it's simple. If your intentions are right from the beginning, you've got a better chance of growing than someone who is just in it for the followers or likes.
Yeah. I think that's a very wise bit of advice. Like, I think the way, like, even for how I've started this G'day Design Life, like, the intention was just always, this is the stuff that I wanted to see when I was wanting to start my business. Like, and that's it. Like, if someone else comes along and says, yeah, that's exactly what I've been looking for, you go, well, job done. Like, that's amazing. But if it falls on deaf ears, so be it. All I've done there is just document what I wanted to see, let's say this time 2 years ago, which I couldn't find for the life of me. And I'm so annoyed that right now is when, like, everything's just blown up. I'm like, oh, I would have been so much more prepared 2 years ago. But yeah, I think that's definitely wise. But having said that, though, when you've got a significant following, let's say if it's 10,000 plus, which is a very decent following, do you feel that kind of pressure to perform, or to put something that is of quality and it always needs to be better, or it needs to be of equal or better?
Not overly, because especially if you stay genuine to your followers and you're very transparent to your followers, people will back you either way. People are following you per such, not so much the content. And it's a little bit different when you've got a brand account like Pitchproof, where it is very content focused. But the way I've kind of like branded that is as me as a personal brand. So I think even if a content doesn't perform as well as it does, as long as I, as the creator, am happy with it, like, you shouldn't worry about it.
No, I think that's definitely a good way of going about it. I think it's one thing to. I'm just sort of wondering, with a lot of people that will put stuff out, that they'll feel the pressure to put stuff out. Like, I think that's one caveat to creating content that you want people to see. You need to, especially with Instagram, you need to be doing it consistently. So there's certain aspects of, let's say, Instagram where you need to post, daily, multiple times as best you can, if you can, or if you aren't doing it daily, you need to do it, throughout the week fairly, consistently, so people show up and you appear, and that's all of this algorithm crap. So my sort of thing with a lot of people that go, oh, like, how do I build this organic traction and everything? And you kind of go, well, you do it, for me, I just do it for the love of it. I just really enjoyed this stuff personally. But for having to put it out daily, like, is coming up with ideas for you a bit of a hard task? Like, for me, some days it's just like absolutely pulling teeth, going, what the hell can I talk about today? Is it of a similar thing for you?
Yeah, well, more often than not, than I'd like to admit. Normally, the posts that we create, I've created literally 10 minutes before they go live. So normally I like to put out
I'm with you there, man.
Normally I like to put out a post about 10 p.m. here in Australia. And literally sometimes I don't start working on a post at 9 p.m. because I literally just can't think of something to post. But I know that I really want to post something. But then again, there's times where it's like you just need to take a step back, not worry about posting that day. For example, last night we didn't post simply because I didn't have a piece of content prepared. But for example, today I've got like 3-4 different content ideas I want to do. So it's just a day-by-day thing. I just think don't put too much pressure on you to create every single day. Even though that's the algorithm and you need to try to play to that and post consistently every single day, you don't want to wear yourself out, and you don't want to wear your creativity out.
It's very true. I mean, that's the thing, when you start out doing this stuff, you're like, okay, I've got these million ideas. They potentially dry up, but then you think to yourself, what do I do next? Like, I've got to 1,000 followers, let's say. And then you go, well, how the hell am I going to get to 10? How am I going to get to 70 where you are? Like, what needs to happen? And everyone just goes, freaks out, and you're just like, I can't do this. And and then doubt sets in, and then your imposter syndrome kicks in, and then all these silly little things that go on in our heads. For you at those early stages, let's say, was any of that a factor in putting out that stuff that you were just like, is this worth it? Like, is this going to do anything for my business being Pitchproof? Or was it just in your head a long game play and you just thought, stuff it, I'm just going to put it out there and see what happens?
I think it's more so the fact that I know that social media can be beneficial for your business, and that I believe that. And that whether you have 500 followers or 5,000 followers or 50,000 followers, it doesn't matter. Still having a social media presence is a positive thing for a business. And like, that's the thing. There's that much benchmarking going on. So the accounts that's got 200,000 followers, 1 million followers, 50,000 followers. And because of that, people don't value their 300 followers or 500 followers. But if you think about it, if you're doing a speech or something like that and you're sitting in front of 300, 500 people, like, that's a lot of people. Like,
exactly. Holy hell. I was talking about this with Tom Ross the other day. I think it was only just yesterday, to be honest, not the other day. And about public speaking. And I was like, yeah, I've probably done it maybe in a room of 100, and that was kind of it. Like, I couldn't imagine speaking in front of 30,000 people in like a stadium. And that's kind of it. When you have a following of what you do now, like, that would fill the MCG.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
It's nuts that you have that much attention on you out of, like, and say 2 years ago, no one was there. Like, it's mind-boggling. And for me, just even going from 1,000 to 1,000 to 1,000, it's like, I don't even know 1,000 people. Like, exactly, genuinely, in person, it's just a weird concept to think, okay, there's these people here now. Do I need to say hi to every single one of them? And it's impossible. You just sort of can't do it. But as you said, like, valuing that person's interest in you, I think, is definitely a big thing. And if you can focus on delivering something that is of value, which I know you talk a lot about, to that particular individual, you might only be focusing on one person out of that, plethora of people that follow you, and that's all that really matters. Like, you're not going to appease everybody, and like, I've had comments where people just throw a bit of negativity, and you go, okay, man, like, I didn't have to make this for you. You didn't have to, you didn't have to like it or anything like that. Don't worry about it, man. Like, it's totally fine.
That's right.
But I think in terms of, I might go back to Gary Vee, where we were talking, I mentioned before, and that we're both pretty into his ideologies, let's say. And I'm assuming that, just given on some of the things that we've talked about. But the whole idea of giving everything away for free, is that where you're kind of at in a sense?
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know why it works. I just think it's the right move. Giving away all your secrets is a secret, which is a bit of a quote I put up on my Instagram. And that performed really well. Selfish plug right there. Follow at the Ryan Hayward.
Perfect.
But yeah, I just think, again, it just comes back to creating value. It's social media, not robot media. Like, we need to interact with people, and the best way to interact with people through social media is by giving away your personal experiences, and just, being educational to people, giving people advice, especially in the design community, where it's very much a learning type of space. People just love to hear from other people.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like, I think that's one thing that I always think about, that what I've come to learn has been learned from somebody else. So why should I put that behind a paywall where, it's something that you could potentially just Google?
Yeah.
What you're doing of value is bringing it all into one place, with a voice that is relatable, that people connect with.
And it builds loyalty as well. Just on that, it builds loyalty. And over time, that's a lot stronger than that, the secret you got from that $50 course online.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, and this isn't to say that those particular people or courses or anything don't have their place, or books or whatever. I think those have their place because they have the opportunity to get that person's attention singled out in that one particular time. So if you don't want to have to scroll through your feed of content and everything, you want to have it all in one place. Like, that's the kind of idea I have at the back of my mind for, let's say, G'day Design Life here, where I was searching for a book that I couldn't find. It had an Australian tone of voice for, all this different stuff you'd need to know as a business owner and designer to start a business. And my thoughts were, okay, I'll write this book and then put it out. And it's like, well, no one knows who the fuck you are. You may as well just put it out, because everything that you've learned is from somebody else. And, at the end of the day, if someone connects with you because it's you, then great. Let's give it, just, fucking give it away. Just everything away and just see what happens. And then if everyone, turns around and goes, hey, can I have all that in one place? You go, okay, here's a dish I've served up earlier. Up to you if you want to buy it or not, kind of thing.
That's it.
Nice. What's on the horizon then for Pitchproof or yourself? I know you've always got a bag of tricks up your sleeve with what you're doing here. But is there anything you might want to share, or give some extra little bit of insight for
Sure,
the
yeah.
design community?
So we're definitely going a lot more down the content route with Pitchproof, and doing things like our Front Row Digital Conference. For example, a little sneaky teaser to everyone listening. So at the start of December, we're doing an event called 25 Goodies, which hasn't been announced live to our community yet. We've kind of just teased it. It's a little bit of an inside scoop, but basically what's happening there is we're for 25 days at the start of December, every single day, you can sign up to our free mailing list and you'll get a design goodie delivered to your inbox. So we've got things like ebooks, downloads, exclusive webinars with some design influencers, which we'll hear more about soon. Other things like product discounts. We've just got a bundle of awesome stuff that we're working on that we can deliver to our community. So that's just one of the things. Other things that will probably be on the horizon for early 2020 and moving forward is another digital conference.
I was going to ask, would you do front row again?
Yeah, definitely. We got a lot of awesome feedback from that. I think we want to make it even greater and better, if that means maybe doing it over a couple of days, getting more
week-long front row.
Non-stop, 24/7.
Do it for a month. Do it for 365 days front row.
No sleep.
No sleep for Ryan. No, I love it.
Just a bunch of different content stuff as well. We've got some cool partners that we're working with at the moment, different brands, produce some series that we're thinking about doing. Some high quality stuff for YouTube and IGTV. So yes, there's just a lot on the horizon. We've got a new website in the works. What Pitchproof is now, it's going to expand to a lot more.
I was going to ask that. So is from what we haven't actually covered for those of you listening and watching is what Pitchproof is. If you want to just quickly touch on what that product is for everybody.
Yeah, so Pitchproof started as a SaaS product, so an online tool for designers to create interactive logo presentations. But ever since we kind of blew up on Instagram and I fell in love with building communities, we've kind of pivoted a little bit for multiple different reasons. And we're starting to move a little bit away from that SaaS product and focusing on building digital events and content for online, because we found that a lot more monetizable. So yeah, that's kind of like our origin story and how where we're progressing.
Pivoting. Amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think there's nothing wrong with pivoting, especially when you see what the interest is. Like if you think that's what the need is there, and then the need shifts and you can change and diversify and all the rest of it, kudos, man. That's a very, very clever move. All right, that's I think wraps it up for us here.
Awesome.
Unless you have other knowledge bombs that you want to drop in on everybody.
I think so. Just provide value.
Provide value.
That's
Ryan
it.
Hayward, provide value. No, I love it, dude. Thanks so much for coming on, and we might check in with you next time when you're doing Front Row again. That happens in 2020, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing that. Hopefully it's not of a time zone that I won't be asleep. But stay in touch, and obviously give Ryan a follow on @usepitchproof. That's the Instagram handle, yeah? Yep. And on his personal Instagram, Ryan Hayward. Thanks, dude.
Yep. Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been fantastic.
No worries. All right, guys. See you in the next episode. This is Two Red Chairs with Frank from G'day Design Life. See ya.